we go. Do we hear the sound on? There we go. Well, that's not right. Okay. Wow, now I guess I accidentally set dark as cure as well, so that's really weird. This mod file does not seem worth. Wow, what does it even do? I still don't understand. Whatever. Let's get the appropriate text up. Yeah, isn't that weird? All right, in the bottom right, as the purple Zerg, it is dark. And in the top left, kind of, it's the Red Terran TY, who is on Splice. He's currently 3-acting, and it is going to be scouted in just a moment here, but by the time it's scouted, Dark will have already gone for the hatchery. Kind of a given, considering what people usually open up with TVZ. But now you have that mental preparation. You know, do I pull the drones? Do I try and get a spine crawler? Is it a 2-racks? Is it a 3-racks? We know it's a 3-racks, but will Dark actually scout far enough back to see that? No, he does not. So TY intentionally putting this a little farther back. Also, I think helps with the timing of it as well. But so that the Overlord knows it's a little scary to go any further. Because even if it tried to park itself on a high ground, like for this, for instance, the barracks could lift and it'd be worthwhile to get that potential supply block. Larva used, hunted minerals used, that type of stuff. So not for another couple Marines would actually see that the 3-racks, and this is still awkward. Dark didn't have a secure location to put that Overlord after all. And that is dead. But Dark got a bit of creep spread already going here. Of course, there's still some time for bunkers to reach that hatchery. He's gonna go for a spine crawler as soon as the spawning pool finished, I would say, but it's actually a little bit later than that. Lings are already out, Queen's already halfway done. Third base is on the way, and I guess that's just something he's gonna keep. I guess. Well, and he's also supply block now, so he can't use his larva. So this is actually just really awkward for a Zerg player. Like, game-endingly awkward. Most Terran players are doing the 3-racks, by the way, just throwing it out there. So Dark probably had some intuition that it was, in fact, 3-racks committed. But, there was a 2-racks, 3-racks, or 4-racks. Well, probably not the 4-racks. There were 2-racks and 3-racks. This is all types of awkward anyways. The 2 bunkers getting up and ready to go with SCV still alive. A drone pool that was basically unsuccessful. This is not a great start. So the hatchery goes down. TY does not know about this other hatchery. Of which it would be not quite a freebie kill, but yeah, it would be. It would be. I think more in consideration of where TY is right now, scouting-wise, what he knows. There could be 25, 30 lings up here with speed, but we know that's not the case. TY doesn't. And if TY had gone to this base and evacuated both bunkers to do so, then his Marines would have been surrounded. They're getting up there in numbers, but they wouldn't be able to tackle, a flood of lings catching them without their backs to a wall type deal. So the Marines go home. No more production from the 3-racks, which is something that the Overlord does realize. I guess technically there could still be Marine production, but at least the Overlord knows the command center's on the way, factory's on the way. There is a after here. It's not just did you win or did you lose. There is a macro game that's about to happen. And the question is, was Dark's a bit of a gamble to go for the 3rd hatchery, not cancel it, not start that speed immediately, not able to produce all the lings immediately. Of course, got supply block as well. Like, was that actually a decent enough opener for him to continue on here? Now, speed is going to finish up, in fact. It's on the way, but it's going to finish up just now, and the Marines aren't quite home. I think there's enough of them because Dark only made 18 lings. And maybe if it was... Woohoo! Oh my god! Actually, I think those lings would have killed all those Marines. I mean, it would have been a trade, an SCV pool probably would have done it, but yeah. Well, anyways, he's able to lift the supply depot, so it's not a problem. Nothing we have to figure out. And that's TY has to play with there. The fact that this name is dark is really, it's killing me, guys. I wish there was something I could put there. That medevac going forward does not have a lot of dangerous marines. The mere fact that it's going to be out in the map as a medevac, so you're going to have to either focus fire really well with your queens or anticipate the drop, is still annoying. And it's still good for TY to do that if he can afford the APM, and I'm going to guess that he can. His 3rd CC is already done. Banshees are on the way as well as Hellions. So does he need to do a medevac drop? No, not really. His Hellions and Banshee would get some scouting done, would be the defense against anything he did scout, such as roaches or Ling Flood. But to have now potentially 3 different harassment units here, he should gather quite a few drones, and now he even has the option to kill an Overlord or 2 that is hanging around to scout for those Hellions or for a Banshee. We even have a 3rd barracks being used to get some really full scouting. Expensive Overlord, or it's only 50 more minerals than Overlords. It's not that expensive, but certainly useful. And if you were going to go into bio, which I'm not sure TY's going to do. It's acid, or it's acid plant? No, it's parasite. Acid plant has been in the map for a while. It's parasite, and mech's kind of been what people do here anyways, plus the onset of a lot of cyclone mech in this tournament. I mean, what a surprise, right? But even if you were, I guess 2 barracks would technically be enough to work with. But it's this barracks also floating forward, and I guess he just leaves the one back at home so that he can build add-ons and, you know, not die, so he can still build factories. So that's a full scout on whatever Dark is doing. We know that Dark wasn't doing anything too surprising, like a really fast Spire, but now it's something that TY also knows. This Banshee not gonna be able to do too much, but it looks like Cloak was not even started. I think it was canceled, but I'm not 100% clear on that. The point is, it's not here, so it's more of a safety Banshee. It can get some damage done, sure. It's gonna have tackling even 1 queen, right? Much less the other ones that come forward or Spore Crawler. So, you know, at best it can, yeah, maybe get a 4th base, maybe get a drone or 2 on the rally, and then maybe if there were roaches, you could tackle them as well. But there's not roaches, there is in fact a Spire. So while it wasn't the fastest Spire, and it wasn't even a surprise, it is on the way. Okay, so it is going to be a surprise, the barracks died before seeing it, which I would assume is what, you know, Dark's plan was, but sometimes they just plan down anyways. So Dark probably figuring out, oh, no cancel. That hurts. Marines were worth that. For surezies. I mean, they saved the medevac even, so definitely worth it. But I'm sure Dark's figuring out that it is mech, and I'm sure he'll also try and figure out that it's potentially Cyclone mech. We have double upgrades on the way. Thor's first, and a 2nd medevac here, so we will be healing up the first one and using Thor drops. Something that, I mean, even before we saw so many Cyclone games in this tournament, all different servers, we hadn't seen in a little while, but it's going to be very useful because, well, there's a Spire on the way, and that is scouted. I think with the scan just revealed it. And maybe that's why TY got it in the first place, is that he figured, I mean, then Thor drops are good, but also that there could still be a Spire since there wasn't any other tech to be seen when TY's barracks were scouting around. We didn't really see a whole lot else. I'm talking about Dark figuring out that it is mech. We actually have him still committing to Baneling Hydra, but with a very fast hive. So I still feel like he knows it's mech, but he's choosing not to go for the very plain and boring Roach Hydra or even Swarm Host that some people do. No, he's going for the Baneling Hydra Hive Viper, presumably, probably with a greater Spire as well, as fast as possible, because he has the Spire anyways, right? And that can work out. That certainly can. The higher the tank count goes, I mean, the harder it is. The more the Terran player is willing to use their Hellions in Hellion mode, the harder it is. You know, just like putting them in the Hellbats immediately and just aim moving forward. But it can work out. Nidas have done basically nothing. Not even going to count, you know, forcing Thors out, because Thors as an opener is just a good thing to do anyways. And it looks like TY really is just smoothing along. Sailing along smoothly, is what I meant to say. Oh my god! Nicely placed with the mines there. Those mutas really not doing too much. Lings, Baneling, something along those lines off the left side. Don't quite grab Enough SCVs to be worth it, or any SCVs, really. And TY is on his way to 2-2, 4th base, totally secure 3rd base, on his way to max as well. Now he's got all 4 bases up and saturated, just about, with 73 workers. The Dark's 88. I mean, there should be an attack on the way. And if Dark was going to go for a Greater Spire, I believe that would have already started. I mean, I think that's still the tech choice. There we go. But even if it was a little bit sooner, I would believe TY starts his attack prior to that, especially if he scans it. But, like, you can start pushing out, really, once you're at 180 even, and then you'll max out on your way there. Depends on how you want to play, of course. But I can't... I mean, usually you don't want to be totally defensive. Like, you know, never moving onto those sides of the person's side of the map. Even though we're not seeing the Cyclone mech, and that was very almost bio-like, especially from certain players like Fantasy, where they were constantly moving around, harassing, sniping bases, whatnot. Even with more of like the normal mech, right, the tank mech that we see here, even then you want to push out just more one big push, and you don't quite have that happening. The creeps are starting to get a little out of control, so the Raven Hellion combo is trying to fix that, and oh my god. This is not a dynamic you tend to see too often. The Blue Flame Hellions do well against Hydras in lower number. With the anti-arm missile, I guess TY really had high hopes about that. Sensor Tower is going to be very useful, but, I mean, without pushing out, I guess maybe he was waiting for 2-2. That is possible. So 2-2, additional factories, so that when your push is almost inevitably pushed back, the harassment cleaned up, you do have enough production to keep the game going. But this is quite... I mean, it's TY, isn't it, I guess? It's very TY. Okay, there we go. So 5th base is going to be on the way behind it as well, and hopefully for TY, Dark doesn't send anything out there, and I guess the mutas would have been the thing to kill it. They're no longer going to have the option to. Oh my god, that one... Okay, well that one muta could maybe cancel. In a really weird world. That 5th base and even 6th base on the way for TY should be able to get up and running. So finally have the push out. It is with a safely maxed out army. Oh, amazing interference matrices. Ah, that is good. Oh, Dark is like, shit, I forgot that was an option. You don't usually see interference matrix on top of Vipers, especially as the Vipers number grow. It gets kind of unlikely you can micro against them or even have enough interference matrix, but that worked out really well. Dark even making it easy because he figured there wasn't going to be an option. There wasn't going to be an interference matrix or a snipe quick enough maybe, or maybe he just accidentally moved his Vipers forward too much. Either way, he loses them. Now the Broodlords are what he's hoping will save the day, and there are quite a few on the way. 5 plus... Oh, I thought I saw more making. Nope, just kidding. There's only 5. That's actually not that scary, but there are going to be a lot of Corruptors to cover them against the Vikings. The Thors are going down to the Hydras on the ground, so they're not going to be available even if they turn into the other mode, Javelin, whatever it is. Because that mode, that single target mode, is rather good against Broodlords. You still need the magic combination of units, you know what I mean? You need the Hellbats to protect the Thors, you need the Thors to even get in range in the first place, and you do want them to have the right transformation mode on. TY does have transformation servo, so they would have been quickly into it, but didn't see the Broodlords coming quite fast enough. Snags a base kill, but that's about it. Dark's still on 4 bases, going on a 5 besides that, so now TY is going to send most, oh my god, if not all of his Hellions, actually his entire army, to the other side of the map. Okay, not quite. They're not going for the base kill. Even with that many Hellions, it'll take a long time to kill an actual building. Goes for the drones, but not too many drones to find at this base quite yet. Broodlords not ready to tango without, you know, a secure army behind them as well. We talked about the Thor Hellbat dynamic. You know, it's not like they can just max out on Broodlords and do well either. They will want Corruptors, make sure the Vikings don't outnumber them, as well as, you know, Vipers eventually. 4 Abducts for Parasitic Bombs, for Blinding Clouds even, depending on what the composition is from the Terran player. And speaking of, TY is transitioning fully into the Cyclone game. Cyclones are tricky though, like they have to get in range, right, to get the lock on, and then when they get out of range, if they're good to go, protected by Hellions or Hellbats, sure, but they can still be very tricky against the Broodlords, and we saw this dynamic, a different way to get here, yes, but we saw this dynamic on this map. Oh my god, the flashbacks, guys. Between Blind Fantasy, for instance, right, but we saw from other TVZs as well, because a lot of the Terran players have been doing Cyclone mech. And Broodlords eventually were the better option, especially if you were controlling them correctly. you know, microing them correctly, having Vipers help them out, stuff like that. So as you can see here, I mean, the Broodlords were kind of unprotected. Queen's kind of helping, a Corruptor's not really helping, and yet they still, the Cyclones still couldn't really do much against them. Not that there was that many. That's not the true battle I'm talking about, but I feel like it's a sign. It's like a small little dose of what will probably happen if the two armies ever collide. But having finally played this style myself, after, you know, just being a caster and saying that I think it's not great, finally playing it, there is certainly an upside to it. I already kind of brought this up, right? But like, you can almost play it like Bio. You can run forward, snipe a base, snipe drones, and then you can leave. And the important thing is you can leave. So while Cyclones aren't exactly cheap and they're not fast to make anymore without their reactor, they survive, right, more than these tanks do. And they still do an amazing amount of damage very quickly, like the tanks. In fact, better than the tanks. Don't quite grab the Baneling Nest. That's not like it was the most important thing ever. Neither player really banking quite yet, but we are getting to that point of banking. I mean, they've all got a lot of bases. They're still on very high worker counts. Oh my god, TY has now flipped the script. Now he's at 88 workers and Dark's at 78. So, you know, eventually, you figure they start to bank a little bit, even with the trades going on here and there. TY finished up 3-3 a little while ago. His upgrades have always been rather good. Dark finishing up his own 3-3. Taking whatever trades you can, I suppose. Helens against Banelings, yeah, that's a worthwhile trade. We now have Liberators on the way, which is something we saw from Gumiho, but Gumiho did it a little bit faster. But I think we saw from other Terrans, maybe, I want to say maybe Cure did it as well, maybe? Liberators can help, but basically what the Zerg player has to do, and we saw this from Raynor, believe it or not a Green Zerg, is you get a surplus of ducks. You get a surplus of Vipers, and this composition looks rather bad. I mean, it looks not as good, I guess is the better way to put it. Especially if they're really getting some good of ducks. But Dark is not privy to that information. He doesn't, you know, wasn't studying Raynor's games or anything like that. Has his own way of handling things, and that way of handling things is not to go into Vipers. He's got one. That's it. To be honest, I like Raynor's Viper choice better, and I feel like this is something that I can actually, you know, say with almost some facts, you know, some certainty, because, well, maybe I won't bring it up, but I mean, we saw Raynor do very well, even though Gumiho eventually got the better of him in the last qualifier. We saw Raynor do very well, and it was against multiple different Korean Terrans. I think Vipers are the way to go, but we'll see how Dark does. I was going to bring up that when it comes to kind of proving how to deal with things, or providing new metas, there we go, right? New answer things. The foreigners have always, they've kind of been like better at it at certain points than the Koreans, so. But I didn't want to cause a stir and rage into the chat, because I dare say that foreigners have some better things to provide than the Koreans. We'll see if I'm validated or not with this attack. We got anti-air missiles coming down. We also have fungals going down. Liberates the unsiege. They got some decent shots off, but we're just getting thinned out. With the amount of corruptors available, with the amount of spellcasters, although not Vipers, they're infestors still. TY does end up having to evacuate, but ended up taking, I believe, what ended up being the better trade. Oh, not as... Okay, alright. So, TY is winning in the trade wars. Trade Federation, but not by as much as you would hope. In fact, now he's going to start losing out here as he loses some other important units. Oh my good lord, that actually does in fact go down. Alright. Nice little snipe there from the Cyclone. But Dark is not on nearly as many bases as he would find comfortable after losing that one, only just getting this one back up and losing this one and the one to the north. There we go. While the resources lost isn't really telling the tale here, no one's, you know, supremely winning versus the other, the income war should be going favorably for TY. Again, higher in worker count, has the mules, has extra command centers, and has all the bases on his side of the map just about. Now he's about to lose this base, and he will be losing 2 bases for the price of 1, an orbital and a planetary. But that is a very good snipe for Dark, who might even be able to secure this base before... No, never mind. No, that's a lie. Nope, he's not going to be able to save this base. But he might be able to punish TY for going to this base. TY is entering on a creep. But I say that, there's no Vipers, so... Oh. This is a position that Dark is going to have a really tough time breaking. I mean, he will eventually break it, but... There we go. Okay. The Liberators are still in Liberation mode. That would have been a better trade, but unsieging at the worst possible time. Fungals do come down, and I guess it's... basically TLDR spellcasters against this composition. I'd still like to see Vipers. Still would. Still believe in that. Whatever. Work accounts have been... torn down a little bit for both parties. More so for TY, I suppose. Now, down to 66. Oh my god, he's so poor, am I right, guys? He could replace that if he so desired, but he could also just try and kneel drop everything. Because how many orbitals we have? He has... Oh. Not as many as I thought. He has 6 orbitals, but he has 3 command centers that aren't being used yet. Okay. Alright, well, we'll see how that goes. This planetary not ready to go, so cannot protect itself against this. And even if it was a planetary with its upgrades, and it does have its oh, it only has 1 upgrade. No high sec auto tracking. That was a lot of Zerg to tackle that. Gonna immediately send it flying back to location, though. That's funny. This is a done planetary, and the SCVs could repair, barely. Baneling's not quite colliding in yet. So some repair is gonna go down. The planetary is going to fall. Meanwhile, TY just trying to defend. Nothing going on side of Dark's bases. Dark's getting some nice trades here as he is now dominating that army supply as well. Fungals once again coming down to trap those Cyclones. That's just almost out of energy, but now we have a mass amount of Hydras and Lings to circle around and stop them from just locking on and leaving. I haven't mentioned this quite yet, but luckily for me, battlecruisers take forever to build anyways, so even before one pops out, I can mention it. Battlecruisers are on the way, but they take a long time to build, even with 4 starports at Tech Labs. Even if you weren't low on money, battlecruisers take a very long time to build, and I'm afraid that TY, that was eventually gonna happen, right guys? TY, you know, at one point had a lot of mining going on. That quickly changed. It's like as soon as I said that he had a lot of mining going on, boom, Dark took out the left base, boom, Dark took out both of the right bases, as well as an extra couple of command centers. And now TY is looking to be in really desperate position. Battlecruisers can do okay, I suppose, with combination of maybe some other units, or simply, you know, they're maxed out, right, on pure battlecruiser. But when you're at 120 supply, down 50 army supply from your opponent, I don't think battlecruisers are going to help you that much, even though they're really well upgraded. They're about to have 3-3. This entire time when watching the Liberators do action, there has been ship upgrades on the way, but I don't know, guys. Now this is always good. So these did not teleport in, they're going to teleport out. In fact, they're very eager to do so. Might be a little scared of Neuroparasite, which I'm surprised I even remembered that was a thing, but I guess I've watched a couple of odd games here and there. Neuroparasite could be a good option for Dark if he were to have trouble with battlecruiser harassment. You know, burrow some infestors around, or shark attack the battlecruisers when TY thinks it's safe, and you could take out 2 battlecruisers for the price of energy. That's always a good trade. And it looks like Dark agrees. Dark is not only getting the rest of his upgrades here, because he was rather upgradeless for a while. He's also getting Neuroparasite. And he does have a decent amount of infestors, so where I guess Raynor is going for Vipers, he goes for infestors. I mean, the idea is you're stopping the Cyclones and Hellbats from being able to just poke and prod and take efficient engagements. You don't have to deal with being locked on and then they just run away and you lose out on 500 minerals for a lock-on. But I did find, like, you know, with the Liberators in play, I was worried because the infestors were dying. Right? They were running into them accidentally and dying. But it all worked out fine. The Corruptors ended up taking out the Liberators anyways. Fungal goes down after all of the Yamatos, but whatever I guess the Yamatos killed all the Corruptors. There's still a lot of Hydras on the ground. Infested Terrans even helping out. Infested Terrans have some amazing anti-air if they're in range. The range is actually pretty decent nowadays, so... Boom, a lot of battlecruisers go down in a flash, and TY. What the? Oh my god, it was like a little plus sign, it was so cute. Even though TY had a fairly decent beginning of the game, he played to the macro siege as much as Dark, if not better than Dark, right before he lost all 2 bases. He's gonna lose. This is not a game that TY can win, although he is once again taking out the bottom left 2 bases with some nice battlecruiser harassment. It was a gamble, as that was a teleport in, not out situation. But Dark's army was over on the right side of the map, destroying whatever he could find up to the right side. And while TY has a couple extra bases, so that he doesn't have to mind so much, I guess, losing command centers. Eventually he'll run out. You know, he's already down 5 from 5 minutes ago or something like that. Even using those widow mines that were there to kill the mutas from earlier on. Now this game's pretty over. I don't see a world where Dark takes such an inefficient engagement that he can't replace and rebuild. He does start to run a little low on gas, which makes sense considering what he's building. And oftentimes it is gas that struggles the most, not just because, you know, obviously it's the thing you have to mine less, right? But also because it's one of those things that you kind of get around to last when rebuilding hatcheries, right? Bases of any type. You have to wait for your simulators to build. You have to remember to put the drones back in the gas, and, well, when it's already such a rare commodity, those couple extra seconds can be a big deal. So, I mean, that's where the base snipes are very good. Very, very good for TY. But they're gonna have to continue being amazing, and at a certain point, Dark will just defend these bottom 2 left bases. I'm using directions like Roddy nowadays. And you know, have 4 gases at least continuously mining, if not 6, considering this base is now defended by Sag Defense and Broodlords. Another base goes down. This base up here is not a planetary, but it is protected by a Liberator. Single Corruptor could take that out, but actually, yeah, you just A-click the Lings on it. They're Uniglam Lings, 3-3. So I finally list, but this is just, it's a prime target for continued Ling run bys, right? Like, there's nothing he can really do about that except maybe stack some Hellbats there, which isn't a bad idea. But then, you know, you're like, I dealt with the Lings, yeah, I have another base mining, and then boom, Broodlords, Corruptors, and Festers pop up, and you're like, oh, right, there's another army. Oh, yeah, JK. I have to say, though, I mean, I thought TY was going to be, like, totally out of this game. He is struggling his way back in. 100 army supply to 123. And a decent amount of battlecruisers, 9, right? I mean, that's certainly not bad. We're also going to be seeing neural parasites eventually, although where are the infestors? Corruptors come in, Hydras come in. They're underneath the Liberator zones, and he did not take every single Liberator out before he engaged there. But finally, all the Liberators did. No, there's still one Liberator alive. Jesus. The Infestor's going to help out here by just use his teleport on it to make sure that TOI cannot take the best engagement possible. And while that one little Infestor was not exactly what I was imagining more like 8 neural parasites. I guess it does still end up going favorably for Dark, who manages to get an overall army supply lead. His Corruptors are being thinned out, and the Broodlords aren't really helpful so much anymore, as it is almost entirely air left over for TY. Now rebuilding Hellions, as he needs minerals. The Dark is on the bottom left 2 bases. He's mining at least continuously, even if he's not banking a ton. And still at 76 drones. 76 drones. This is it's something. It's TY proving me wrong. Proving that there's something to hear in this composition. But I don't know. Guys. Once or twice he'll get, you know, an okay engagement, but he needs to take really cost-efficient ones, and he's simply not doing so. Pretty even on the resources lost, with TY down. You know, yeah, makes sense considering the last couple of engagements. He would need to have that flipped and then some, in my opinion. Like, he'd have to have 50,000 loss instead of 58, but even then, I really feel like even if there was a maxed out army versus a maxed out army, if Dark was getting the army that he wanted, that I think is best, so again, neural parasites and vipers, something I've been harping on for a little while, maybe I should stop. I think that TY's army, like I don't know what he would do against it, honestly. But I'd want to see it happen. I'd want to have some facts, you know, some game to point to evidence for when I'm like in the future, this doesn't work, but we're not going to see that this game. TY has been limping along here, kind of making things work, but another another base knight is really good news, but he loses a battlecruiser, loses a battlecruiser, loses a battlecruiser, and that is it, GG. Alright. Very long first game here. Thank you for that. Dark versus dark action. Thank you to the Wendigo for the tier 1 sub back at the beginning of the game, as well as Jimothy Jim. Oh, I'm dumb. Jimothy Jim for the 100 bits. Oof, starting to get some flashbacks to Bly versus Fantasy, guys. It wasn't looking good. But it doesn't go that way. We're all Gucci here. Just a casual 30-minute game. Just put Hellbats in bunkers. God, imagine if we could do that. The Terran race would be unstoppable. Okay, so I'm gonna confirm here that I have the correct logos. TY is TY and dark is dark. So if it's just up as dark versus dark again, I'm just gonna say fuck it. He could have used Liberators versus Corruptors. Can't believe he didn't even try to use the splash damage. Technically, he could have. But then the Hydras would have killed everything anyways. No, there was no better answer for the amount of units he had. I think if you start talking about him having Thors on the ground doing splash damage, or Ravens, not that Mass Raven's really useful anymore, then you know, you can talk all you want, but for what he had, I think TY did the best he could. I'm kind of hoping we don't see the same deal here. It's on stasis for game number 2. Ooh, you don't see this map too often. The top left, as the purple Zerg, it is dark. The top right, as the red Terran, he is TY. Despite starting with a strong 3 racks build last game, waiting too long, perhaps. Excuse me? To punish... Oh, okay. Waiting too long, perhaps, to take advantage, I guess, is a more appropriate way to say it. Take advantage of the situation he put himself in. There also might have been a little bit of a misread for, like, a little while, because he didn't realize there was a 3rd hatchery up and running, which turned into a natural, right? But there really wasn't a lot of aggression post the 3 racks. Though TY tried, that's not where I'm criticizing him, really. Like, he had the medevac going, he had a Banshee trying to do something, even without cloak, and he did have a Hellion squad constantly roaming around. But there really wasn't a lot of committed aggression post the 3 racks, and Dark was able to appropriately read the situation, right? He went for the Spire and didn't do a whole lot, but behind that Spire, behind the information he got from scouting and reading into TY and probably knowing how TY plays, right? He was able to get up to 4, almost 5 bases with a strong drone count and a strong army before TY was ready to push. Now, TY barely missed the timing on the push pre-Broodlord, and this is where I am going to be maybe a little critical. TY is obviously a better player than I'll ever hope to ever be, and he's also a very smart player. But I do think in the past few days, well, qualifier days, I suppose, that we've seen TY, he has not looked the strongest he could, right? I mean, Innovation was looking the strongest Terran could, perhaps. But TY, you know, he lost versus Hero 2-0. Kind of questionable letting Stasis through in that series, and then not looking really so hot versus Protoss in general. It might be okay to be a little critical of TY, who hasn't quite adapted, I suppose, and shown us his true form, which he might be waiting to do so when it comes to the actual, you know, main tournament. But anyways, yeah, that's where I'm going to be a little critical, is that I feel like he could have and should have gone for that 2-2 push as 2-2 was finishing, as he was getting maxed out. Because that's like a full minute and a half, I want to say 2 minutes, something like that, where he could have been pressuring Dark and reading into, you know, what he was building, and then being able to trade and accommodate and try and go into Thors, which Thors do really well in the beginning stages of those Broodlord games, right? When you figure out they're going to Broodlords, they're intentionally leaving supply for Corruptors and Broodlords, they're finally getting them, and you are able to build up a decent Hellbat count with like 6 Thors in the single target mode. They do well. It's when you have blinding clouds and, you know, parasites and 20 Broodlords, right? You can't even get through the damn Broodlings. That's when Thors look stupid again. But yeah, and that's what I thought TY was going to do, and unfortunately that's not what he showed us. But TY is pretty well known for his strong builds, and we do have an interesting one on the way here. There's got to be a reason he let Stasis through map vetoes. It's just a really weird map in general, so I would have figured both of them would have opted to veto it. But anyways, the second time we've seen TY not use one of his vetoes for it. And in the first game that we saw versus Hero, he tried to do a tank push. Didn't work out. Hero had a Tempest plan. But in this game, we also have a tank push, question mark? Or a very defensive tank. He did do some scouting, and he saw that it was a pull first, but it wasn't actually like, you know, a roach attack. And he saw a hatchery, and then he did see the third base on the way. Well, there's a roach warren on the way now. And this is a very defensive opener. You know, he went for the bunker, he went for a quick wall off with the barracks, and he went for a very fast tank. So I thought maybe he was setting up for like a very odd little marine push, right? Because the reactor's still on the factory. That wasn't the case. Well, he is well defended against anything attacking the front. If it was fast mutas, maybe you'd be having trouble. He's also going for a third command center. He's getting some Banshees. Another tank is on the way. And Dark is the one now. We have to talk about his scouting. What's it look like here? He knows about the barracks. He doesn't see much else. It's a very big natural on Stasis. So even with the little Overlord spot, it's not going to do very well. Oopsie. Sorry about that. That is actually Dark. So layer's almost done. We have a scan. Oh, okay, there we go. On the main base. Reveals the layer timing, and there is a Roach Warren. Banshee's gonna find a couple Ravagers. Looks like Dark was planning on doing a little bit of pressure. Otherwise, you don't really build Ravagers just, you know, for the hell of it back at home. But stops is it is Banshees, and they're always gonna be able to find them and take care of them. Not worth going across the map when you know they're gonna die without doing very much. Double Armory is not a surprise, although we don't see too many TVZs on this map. We don't see this map in general. I don't know what usually Terrans do here. We know that TY likes his patient games, likes his long games, and Mech does usually play to that. So, we do have a tank push. Okay, this is making a little more sense. I mean, just getting a defensive setup, you could do that with the Hellions, right? The regular Hellion Banshee build with a bit of a faster tank after 6 Hellions. You can do that. So I was like, there's gotta be some of the reason he's going so fast into tanks and bothering to keep their reactor on the barracks. And it is a push, so it's a weird one. And Dark could just, you know, if he's got the larva and the minerals, I think given 15 seconds, he could easily make an army to defend against this, but it's a little supply blocked for a second there. He's currently building a lot of other things that aren't army right now, tech structures, upgrades. But this is a composition that does just kind of flounder against a lot of units, and even a round of Lings would not be uncalled for here. And that's exactly what Dark is doing. 9 roaches are on the way, but TY might already be happy with the amount of damage he's done here. He's gonna be able to snipe his Overseers to give the little more opportunity to this Banshee, although there is a Spore Crawler as well. Gets an Evolution Chamber that was researching +1 Carapace. Now Dark is ready to go against this, but he got Queens, he got an upgrade, he got some gas units. He's gonna get more gas units. The Queen did die. I thought it was right over there, but it died. The Spore Crawler's not being moved. And there isn't one more Queen on the way. No, 3 more Queens on the way. They are not quite popped out yet, so that Banshee ended up being quite worth. It's going to help take care of any counterattack that might happen, as well as Dark just spent a lot of time and money trying to defend something that if he had been prepared just 15 seconds sooner, would have probably looked really silly. If this was a normal attack by Terrans, so this is like our meta, I can almost guarantee that every Zerg absolutely squashes that. It's not particularly strong, and that, you know, it doesn't have stim, it doesn't have medevacs, it is only 4 tanks, so you get a couple units surrounding them, suddenly they go berserk. Like, it's certainly meant to punish someone who is trying to currently macro, and that was definitely the case. So that's the type of stuff we know TY for, finding those weaknesses in his opponent, getting a build that is catered right towards it, and doing kind of weird stuff too, so that especially a Zerg player, right, would find it a little off-putting and be like, what the hell? But Dark's gonna go back into the recovery mode, right? He didn't really lose a lot of drones there, but he lost a lot of his support units, I suppose. And it took so long, too, that he did end up bleeding off a lot of Roaches and Ravagers being the more important, expensive part. But yeah, so there's not a lot of creep spread. And there's not a lot of Queens, right, they were injecting, but now they're going full force. The upgrades were stalled out with a +1 Carapace, but he's still on 77 drones. He's still on 4 bases. He still could maybe get to max before TY does. But TY is going into Cyclones, not mech, or, not tanks, sorry. So it might not be an issue about being max. TY might just have some pressure to apply with this composition far, far ahead of max, right? That's what you can do when you're able to lock on and run away. But we also have Vipers on the way. So Hive is already done. And that's probably the biggest benefit of Dark here. We saw this specifically from Raynor. We're going to get tired of me bringing up those games. But specifically, we saw Raynor take damage in the early game. 2 or 3 of the games we saw him play. And yet still able to recover because his Viper usage was quite good. And he was able to get to Vipers. So he got up to something like insane 8-minute Hive timings off a very low worker or army count. But still had Vipers and still ended up winning. So I do believe that's the important tool to go for. TY is pushing, but he quickly got up to close to max. Dark a little shy of it, but I think with a stronger tech here. How are the lock-ons? Are they going to go on top of the Viper? Nope. Viper goes on top of the Cyclones first and foremost. Abducts 2 of them. 2 out of the equation is already a big deal here. As 3 Cyclones forced to retreat. Just too big of a Zerg army to tackle. That wasn't all of TY's army, was it? Does not look like a lot, but I guess most Terrans don't have 98 workers either, so... Well, I don't know how 101 workers is really going to look for army supply-wise. I guess this composition is kind of more about hit and runs and wanting to replace the getaway cars, so maybe this is gonna work out, but oh boy. That's a lot of not army, you know what I'm saying? Okay. We did have, I forgot to mention this. We had the Banshee speed upgrade, so now we see them doing their best to harass. The Viper's also decent against this. They can barely get in range, barely get the abduct, and then boom, instantly have Banshees go down. Not very durable units, but they do have that speed. They outrange, outpace, there you go, the Overseer. But not really finding the truest value here, the best value. Okay, they're gonna get another gas geyser, but they should go down shortly after that. 3-3 is currently on the way for TY, but I don't know if his composition is really gonna trade out as well as he was hoping for. He's currently at 104 workers, guys. Jesus. 104 workers. Ah! That's a lot of workers. Dark, the Zerg player, is at a comfortable 69. Okay, now he's on 68. Damn it. But still, and I think he's like okay with that. He's gonna get this huge bank immediately? No, but he's gonna be taking the better trades probably as time goes on, and maybe I might be okay with that. TY did go into tanks, so pushing the Cyclones back home and then continuing to push in is not as likely to happen, but Blinding Clouds could go down, or simply more abducts. Vipers being the key to everything here. Okay then. Turns out if you have 8 Vipers, you can abduct Cyclones, Hellbats, and all the tanks that they had all together, and you're still good to go. A mass amount of the Zerg army coming through here, and Overseer still available, so no cheeky Banshees getting rid of this army. 5 command centers had to be canceled. 2 command centers are going to die, and TY is just not finding out how to make this composition work, and I can't really... I'm not blaming him. Yumiho barely made it work against Raynor, who's going to have a really strong handle on it. And even that was a just barely. And I'm really not so certain about the Cyclone idea on this map in particular, because this map kind of forces more of those, just like, there's these attack points, I'm going to go through these attack points, and you hopefully aren't there, but why wouldn't you be? Because there's only so many places I can attack through. There's this hallway that's very, you know, it's a choke, it's dangerous. There's this hallway that kind of branches off into the other 3 bases. Like, Dark's army would never be that much farther away from the other bases, unlike some other maps we have, right? Where you could find him all the way to the left side and all the way to the right side. It didn't really happen here. I kind of blame the map for that one. TY not having any success with the compositions he's going for. Again, minor success in the early game. Last game, 3 racks. This game, the tank push. But Dark is just on top of things. He's still at 5 Vipers. I think he lost 1 or 2. Yeah, 2. And he'll certainly lose more of the Vikings here, but he'll also trade out before the Vipers die. They're not even quite being one-shot. Like, barely not being one-shot from the Vikings. So 2 Vipers go down, but trade out of a decent number of mechanical units. Now you can see the resources lost is more of what I was thinking would happen. 9 Corruptors on the way to help protect the Vipers and perhaps also go into Broodlords as the Greater Spire is done. TY still has those better upgrades, but he can't seem to do very much with it. We have Spine Crawlers protecting these extra bases, and while Blue Flame Hellions can still get a couple of shots off, yeah, if the Zerg players paying attention and they split, there's really nothing as the Hellions can do. Even if you get 8 Hellions over there turning into Hellbats. Again, this map would provide an easy access to the army to get over there and defend, and even if they weren't, even if they were on the other side of the map, I still think, you know, you'd be able to send something over there in time. So harassment's not really going to work. The main army fights aren't really working for TUI. I'm painting a very bleak picture here for the TUI fans out in the crowd. But I think it is bleak. If you have watched nothing from my commentary except these qualifiers for IEM, you might even be like, man, what a Raynor fan girl. Fucking Zerg. Fucking girl players always being Zerg. Jesus. And I'm be like, no, I swear to God. Totally Terran biased, y'all. But I guess I'm not a fan of the mech nowadays. Now this looks like a strong push here. We have a lot of Vikings. We have some missile turrets coming up here, and we do have Thors on the way for what is going to be initially a smaller Broodlord count. So we kind of have everything I was bringing up in those other games coming to fruition here. We might see a successful army fight. But now I gotta talk about TUI's supply count. Now, you know, still being heavily favored towards the SCVs. 91 SCVs, only 104 army supply, even as he's maxed out. But some strong positioning around these corners, so now finally using the map to his advantage. We have Infestors, but they could be target fired by the tanks. We do not have a lot of Vipers. Okay, there they are, flapping little wings here. We're down to 3 Vipers, but full on energy. Gonna get parasitic bombs, 2 parasitic bombs. A fungal even goes down. Instant transformation with the servos means the Vikings can escape out of that, and the fungal wasn't that great. So an okay start there for TY. Manages to save a lot of important units, but also manages to lose some of those frontline tanks to the Broodlords that he simply can't take care of. If he's being parasitic bombed and forced to ground himself, and he's not taking care of the Vipers, and he's not taking care of the Broodlords. So 2 Vipers still live here, 2 Infestors as well. Dark is running out of spellcasters. Very bold attempt to take this bottom base, by the way, which I didn't even remember was here. I would have assumed it was a gold base, considering its weird location, but I guess eventually Dark plans on grabbing that too. TUI did replant all those structures we saw too, and we have a Ghost Academy already done. So not only has he gotten more command centers up, although not nearly as many, he is going for ghosts, and this could be the magic that we need to see in this composition. Fantasy showed us some ghost usage, but honestly, his actual ghost usage when he had 6-7 ghosts was not what I would have expected from a guy named Fantasy. TUI might be able to do a little bit better, and I really do hope that he goes for a lot more Ghost Academies and nukes, because that would be really cool. We'll see how the EMPs look. We'll see how the snipes look. Whatever, you know, whichever. Probably both, actually. Look for TY, as that is going to be an important part of his army engagements. This still provides a very strong anchor with missile turrets. Dark's going to have to give away a lot of his Vipers, all of his Vipers, in fact, as well as his Corruptors. Barely not taking out all of the Vikings, but the Vikings very low. Tanks almost going to be taken out by the Broodlings, and that's when the Hydras come in. Very good control of the army here from Dark, not simply 1Aing in here. And, yeah, successfully takes out the top side. Bottom side is also going to be taken out. As TY lost a few too many units, and not really with any Vikings left over. Most of them are very injured still. You can't protect this base. Maybe this will all come down to who gets this base, but TY is still down 7,000 resources. And still not getting a win, right? Like, he's getting pushing power. He's getting some hatchery kills, because this one just seems to be a very difficult place to keep. But he's not really winning any of the fights, so much that Dark has to panic and run away and rebuild, right? Not really. A couple times maybe there's not been enough Corruptors, but yeah, so that's where I'm still concerned. But I feel like with the Ghosts, and now we even have nukes on the way, more upgrades to the Vikings, I feel like TY might just be getting up there. We have a very interesting choice here to go for Marauder slow, and it's gotta be intentional, right? But why? It doesn't have Simmer combat shields. Huh. I'm not entirely sure what that's for, but if his plan is to build a couple of Marauders, oh my god, he's actually gonna win a bio. He's doing it! Fantasy, we thought was going to do it, but he just ended up upgrading his Ghost. But I think TY might actually be transitioning into Bio. Oh my god, the Parasitic Bomb Fungal! Oh my god, all of those Vikings die anyways! And of course they're landed, so the Broodlords take care of them. The Thors are fungaled, or they could be Neuroparasitic, they could be anything. They don't get in range to use those single target missiles. A nuke is going to come down. The nuke is in, it's like barely in the fog of war thingamajigger here, but not going to go off. As Dark did notice and retreated away from it, so not worthwhile to use, I suppose. Although, if you cancel it, doesn't it just, like, you either use it or you don't. Like, you don't get money back for it, right? So, well, anyways. That was gross. That was all the Vikings dying. The Thors looking absolutely useless. And while Thors do look useless at this point, I want to be clear, I don't think Thors are the magic answer to everything. When there's 10 or more Broodlords, it's going to look really dumb. It's also because none of the Hellbats protecting them, and that's usually what lets them punch through the army. But it's a weird, perfect composition micro thing where the tanks focus fire the Hydras, and then the Hellbats take care of the Broodlings, and then the Thors deal with the Broodlords, right? But it hardly ever works out that perfectly. So now, what, you know, seems to be one of the answers for Terrans is Ghost Snipes, which have a decent range, but still, Broodlords can take care of them, and Fungals are always going to be the magic spell for Dark here, more so even than in other games versus other compositions. They're going to be the most useful against the Ghosts, which really struggling to do anything here, even though TY is keeping his supply quite up there, and he's going for a couple of run-bys, going for some tech structures perhaps. The Ghosts are having some trouble looking like they're useful. Some Snipes do go down before the Fungals can, and EMP tries to tag them as well, but Dark's been doing a good job of avoiding those. There's a little Thor run by, killing some Infestors. Maybe good value, but is it really going to add up to losing the base, losing some Ghosts, losing all your tanks? I don't know about that. Things are getting a little weird, as Dark is going to lose his natural hatchery, which is mined out anyways, so do you really care? He's not going to lose his third base or his upgrades. I'm not sure what was killed. What was killed there? Oh, that feeling no structures. Okay. The Hive goes down. I can tell you that much. The Hive goes down, and even without the units still being here, there's no creep spread, so the Spires would go down. No more Greater Spire. No more regular Spire. An attack in the middle of the map looks like it might have done something. No. No, the Broodlords just came over here. So Broodlord's gonna take care of the army, and it certainly got awkward. The spawning pool went down first, then the Hive, so that's gonna take a long time to rebuild. Was this the answer? Was this what's gonna bring TY back in the game? He still has to take on the army, which hasn't been going so well. But if he does, if he even takes like an okay, like barely wins trade type of deal, Dark will have to remax on Hydras and Infestors. No Vipers, no Corruptors, not even Lings. We'll see how this goes. The attack is kind of underway, but Fungals hit the Hellbats, so they're not really helping. Vikings look dumb as always. Some snipes go down, but more Fungals dealing so much more damage. Oh, nice target fire with the tanks off the Infestors. Pops about 3 of them. But was that a structure that was lost? No. Okay, yeah, I was right. You can still remake the Infestors, but now Dark is running out of gas. 3 hatcheries down. There weren't a lot of mining to be done on those hatcheries. It does mean there's only 3 hatcheries left alive. The Broodlords come in here, but snipes are going down, so most of the Corrupt has been taken out. Even the Mistletoe helping out a little bit. Dark is down to mostly Broodlords. His spawning pool did finish up, and he is using whatever gas he had to rebuild on Infestors, which is probably the best choice possible. And Lings don't get... You know, don't forget about Lings. When there's no Hellbats left over, Ghosts and Tanks will have a very, very hard problem to deal with when 3th Regional and Lings come out. So do not underestimate the Ling Flood. Temporarily, Dark is down to Broodlord and Infestor. It's 2011 all over again, man. 2012? Whatever. They both really are... It's come down to this middle base. Not that TY, even if he grabs it, is going to be too successful. His resources lost is still pretty imbalanced. But maybe if he could anchor it with a planetary and some missile turrets, that's when he's hoping things would work out. But he's been trying to do that for the last 6 minutes at least, and it hasn't quite worked out. As far as the nukes have gone, we saw the one on top of the army was canceled or killed or something along those lines. This one was killed. You hear the little ghost scream. More ghost screams. They can't do anything. They're not getting their snipes off. They're dying to the Fungals and the Broodlings, or the tank fire, anything really. And the tanks are all getting cleaned up here. Dark still banking quite a lot of minerals and gas, despite being down to 3 bases, 2 really only mining. He is going to win out with his composition. Good control from both players, but it's just a... I mean, guys, I think it might be harder for the Terran in this situation. He didn't end up going into the bio, by the way, which makes you really sad. Don't know what the Marauder Slow was for. Upgrades were just for the ghosts. Womp womp. But as big as Stasis looks, like, it's really not that big of a map. It doesn't have a lot of mining bases. So I guess it's not that surprising that he was unable to fully transition to anything or to fully upgrade his ghosts. He's been struggling on the economy compared to Dark for, like, the entire game. Another base bites the dust. Now, TY still has a lot of bases left over, I suppose. 3 planetaries. 1... Oh, that's gonna die. Never mind. No command centers. 7 orbitals. There we go. 7 orbitals. So he can still try and take that middle base, but... TY is up to 100 workers at one point in this game. Is mined out of his first 3 bases for sure. This base is no longer being mined. This one has a gold base, so really fast mining out there. 1 nuke could maybe solve all of TY's problems. Dark can't replace this army with the amount of gas that he has. But actually, I think he could replace Lings and Banelings, and that would be enough still. Dark could go down a Ling Baneling and move one against TY's army. Yep. Hellbats would try their best, especially being healed by the medevacs, but Banelings would pop them off pretty quickly. This is gonna be it. Big ol' Fungal after a couple snipes. Even an EMP does go down, but that was just for flash. Just for style points. As Dark takes the 2-0 against our Terran